Present.
Commission Member Bissell,
Here.
Commission Member Bicknell, Commission Member Green,
Here.
Commission Member Teal.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Okay, perfect. Can you pull up the agenda? I'm having problems getting it on my computer at the same time.
Yes. All right, there you go.
Perfect. Okay. So need a motion to approve the consent agenda for today.
So moved.
Get a second. Okay, got it. Moved and second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of approve, please say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Okay, we've got just the one presentation this morning. Mike, you ready to take it away?
Yes, I am. So, the item before you all this morning, I believe at one of the last park board meetings, it was at least given to you all. Apologize for not being in the last board meetings, but with late start on Fridays, Jim, I have a toddler now, so I have to cover that. So capital facility plan, it really has all the necessary investments over the next 6 years in the city. And the first year is more concrete. The other 5 years are for planning purposes. So I'm not going to go deeply through the entire capital facility plan, maybe mainly the park section, since that's what's under your purview. It's similar structure to past years. So we have the introduction of the management team, table of contents, what is a capital facility plan, since that's pretty much directed by the state government through Growth Management Act. Page 5 is like your Cliffs Notes, so that is like the largest projects that are going down the next year. Then as we get, that's weird. Battery go out. Huh. Okay, thank you. Page 6 just goes into what is a comprehensive plan. Next slide. And then the strategic plan. Then next. Okay, then our long-term financial strategy, how we invest, how we balance expenses and revenue. Now page 10, please. This is the pathway of getting a capital facility plan approved, because for a lot of the grant applications, the projects, while you don't have to really confine them down to the year, they have to be in here. Otherwise, you can't really get funding. So this month, it really get the various aspects of this all get approved by the various commissions, and then it gets teed up for council to adopt at the end of the month. So the Economic Development Commission, they've already recommended this to council. Knock on wood, you'll do the same today. And then Utilities and Transportation Commission, they'll be reviewing and providing a recommendation next week. Next slide. This just goes over the projects that are completed this year. Quite a few of them, and they range from fire department with the staircase to the back, Lions Park, that's getting close to getting to the point of being wrapped up, and then Damson, post office crosswalk, a lot of work in wastewater, and then finishing up the well. Next, whoa. Oh, now it is working. Okay. This remote has a mind of its own. Yeah. So this is a pie chart, just shows the deviation of the various expenses across the departments and so forth. So for fiscal year 2025, really your largest outlay, we have an earmark, a lot of earmarks and stuff in the water system. So that's at 33%, followed followed by streets at 25%, wastewater at 14, and then it goes down from there. And then when you get into the 6-year outlay, you can see similar trends. I would say the largest outlay we have out of everything is actually the streets. Page 13, this just has again a breakout of where we're at with everything for this upcoming fiscal year. Then anticipated revenue sources, again, you're trying to do estimates for expenses in the next 6 years. So if you were to look at all departments, your outlay ends up being about 181 million for everything. The key thing to know is 65% of that as it stands is outside revenue. So mainly grants, developer contributions, and the like. So 35% is born locally, 65 is outside dollars. Prioritization, this because you'll notice like in the Cliffs Notes document, which just has everything in a spreadsheet, there's a high, medium, low. High really means no matter what the economic condition it needs to happen, whether it be that grants are expiring or provides public safety issue. Medium is that we really need it to happen, but depending on the ebb and flows of available revenues, it can be delayed for some time. And then low really means that it's like grant driven essentially. So if we get the grant, it happens. If not, then it waits for a while. This next slide just gives you a breakout where all the random projects are at, and you can see a table of contents for where everything is at for the next 6 years. Okay, that's weird. Okay, so then we get into facilities. I'm going to go mainly a park section, which is under your purview here. So parks, this is like for the next 6 years here. The big one we're teeing up is the Veterans Park remodel. And that is about 1.5 million, putting restrooms out there, picnic shelter, basketball, pickleball court. Essentially, we're in the engineering phase of this right now. We're trying to get everything teed up and move to critical path construction phase as this all gets cobbled together. Naturally, it'll go to this board for the advisory approval. We already have the state youth athletic facility grant. We plan to basically do some Sherwood Trust grants since Lions Park will wrap up. So that makes us where we're eligible for that. And then also that City REIT 2 account that was specifically earmarked for park projects. And since Lions Park is wrapping up, that means that money can be amassed for the next park project, which is this. So it'll really improve that park to essentially a full operational park for that Homestead neighborhood. Page 25, this is the community center project. So this we're going to really start going deep into this in the new year. So as it stands, when we ended up getting the park certified for all grants, a little 9,000 square foot square was drawn in there, which meant that it didn't fall National Park Service standards, so you could actually do a community center building. So right now, the state brownfield program is they're doing it at their own cost, a phase 1 report, just because the existing building may have asbestos and lead and stuff in it. And once we get that report, essentially, since the state's paying for it, they'll also pay for the remediation and the tear down. So they'll make us free and clear of that. And then really it then becomes what replaces it. And luckily, so we aren't encumbered in state and federal regulation. Walla Walla County, they authorized to give us a 0.09 Green grant. Typically they'll be the last ones in, but in this case, I sold to them the fact that, hey, if you front end load this, then we aren't going to have to pay all this like additional costs on architecture plans, and they bought off on it. So they are going to front end load us the money to essentially pay for the architecture plans, the 100% architecture plans. We bid that out, and Design West, they were ones that did the early level conceptual, but based on everyone's grades, they came out as the top victors. So I'm negotiating a contract with them. I'm expecting we'll have some back to us by the end of the month for council to pass. So that really means all of next year, this commission and then the partners on this project will be heavily involved in what does this thing actually look like, because all the work today has been highly conceptual. And then how we're paying for it as it stands, it's a litany of federal congressional directed spending, that's state earmarked for the child care, and then State Department of Commerce, we're working with the library district to go get a library capital grant to cover their portion of it. So it's all going to come together, which is pretty exciting. And the idea on that one is really to try to tee that up so we can get into the construction phase of it probably this time next year, going into 2026. So really moving full steam ahead. The Whitman and Maple proposed park site, this would be essentially 2026 into 2027. And again, you see how we're paying for it, which is basically a deviation in nonprofit grants, REIT 2, developer impact fees, like from the apartment complex. They'll be going to the east of it, and then RCO grants. Perseverance Park, similar concept, really combination of REIT 2 funds and RCO funds. With that REIT 2, which is 1/8 of 1%, we typically get about, depending on how real estate sells, anywhere from 200 to 400,000 a year. So we can put that as local match to get these park projects done, and that's what the whole purpose of that fund is for. Kiwanis Park Rehab, I put this back here, but if the thing is, this one actually has a likelihood of potentially being bumped up. So the reason being is that a lot of the state RCO grant programs are predicated, the most current iteration were predicated on those Climate Commitment Act dollars, and originally a lot of folks and a lot of pundits thought that was going to get repealed and go away, and it actually was upheld. So, and they didn't award out a lot of that money, so that means they're pretty flush with cash in the account right now. And with Kiwanis Park, we put in for a grant, and they have this new equity tool map where, believe it or not, the immediate neighborhood around Kiwanis Park is marked for a reduced match, and we put in for it. Well, here if we get it, but if we do get it, this will probably bump up to a lot sooner, because that grant with the reduced match means we don't typically, for RCO grants, you have to provide about 50-50 match. In this case, our local match, if it gets funded, would be 10%, where the state takes most of it. So that would be changing out the sprinkler system on the north end. None of that was ever touched. The pickleball basketball court lights, a pathway around the perimeter of it, and then putting in some turf and such on the north side of the park. Because when the park was touched a couple of years ago, more than a couple of years ago now, it was back in 2017, but the south part of the park was redone, but really not much was done on the north side, so that's just been hanging out there. So I believe this one has a very strong potential of getting bumped up now that climate commitment stuff was upheld. The park development at Stone Creek, a lot of this is going to be driven by the speed of development out there. I will say they've turned in their initial application and they're working. They were missing some items, so we have requested that. But I believe you're really going to start seeing a lot of movement to get this before the hearing examiner next year. So this is on a critical pathway and move forward. The idea here is that we can make them give a park and put in the appropriate equipment. But likely with the amount of density that's out there, it's going to trigger probably 20-acre park. So it's really our chance to make a really high quality park. So it'll be the developer working with the city, working with the school district to make a really high quality asset under the guidance of this board. So that's what that is. And then Harvest Meadows Park, that one was delayed out a couple years just because we have a lot of these other bigger park projects and the usage is a lot more at the other parks, but we still do want to make uniform amenities like the welcome sign, picnic shelter, so on and so forth. So that is where that is at. And then the rest of this document gets into other infrastructure type projects, but park ones are under your purview. The one thing I will say it ties to Lions Park Community Center directly is that we did get a state transportation improvement board grant to go run a sidewalk down 8th Street. So it's being engineered right now, but next year you're going to see construction of a concrete sidewalk where there is none on 8th all the way from College at Larch with bump outs and a rapid flashing beacon so people can actually get safely across the street over into Lions Park. So that'll make that a lot safer to get over there. But yeah, that's the general gist of things. Questions?
Mention the sound, the musical instrument park thing we talked
Oh
about.
yeah, go for it.
So, Mr. Fry, do I say Chair Fry? Chair Fry and I have talked a little bit briefly about, they're like parks. I forget what the name of them that is off the top of my head, but they're parks that have giant musical instruments in them that is like play equipment as well as musical. And so anyways, Mr. Fry and I have talked a little bit about putting something like that in over there. Is that the one over on Majonier?
Yeah, the Stone Creek.
Stone Creek.
yeah.
Yeah, and trying to implement or utilize, I would say, some of the high school students to see what we can do to have them have a project involved. So
Yeah, it'd be a great Studio 57 project for sure. Any other questions for Mike or discussion?
I got a couple of things that they're honestly kind of unrelated to the park stuff. I'm curious. One of the road upgrades that we had talked about previously was Whitman out past the Whitman or out past Martin Field.
Yeah.
I didn't see that here. Is that still?
Yeah, that falls under stormwater because with how federal, and you'll see it in the stormwater section, but we did get that large tree grant and that's actually being engineered right now to go run the irrigation system all the way out there. So because right now the water system dead ends at Homestead. So the engineering should wrap up by the springtime, which would put us on the pathway to build the irrigation and put the trees in next summer and the fall.
Awesome. The other question was just looking at the current ballot count, what the other plans forward on the police department are.
Yeah, I mean there is no really good answer on that because the truth of the matter is what I would say of a lot of your city departments, ones that state and federal government just does not give a lot of assistance to is police departments. They like leave you your own devices pretty much. So I mean, if this thing ends up failing, what I think the pathway that we do have, but it's going to take some time to get there, is essentially with that congressional directed spending. You can get police stations under what's called the Homeland Security Bill. But for each earmark, they really only give like $3 to $5 million, but you can rack and stack them over a number of years. And with the congressman that just won the vote to replace Kathy McMorris Rogers, Mike Baumgartner, his big thing is like Homeland Security. So I actually think there's a pathway to get a lot of the CDS money through him for that. But I would say to amass enough, because keep in mind, it'll be building that, but then you're also chasing inflation. So for all the amount of money you get as you're waiting, the cost is also escalating. So I mean, if we're gonna go that route, I see it where it would probably take about another 4 years to like stack enough money, and then maybe cover the remainder of inflation, go out to voters again for a bond request, but would be much lower at that juncture. I mean, instead of the full 14 million, if we're successful getting all these earmarks, you would probably be down, even with inflation, you'd probably be down around the 4 million area. But really, to put anything like this before voters again, you're going to have to wait another four years, because the issue is if for voter approved bonds like that, you have to have 40% of the registered voter turnout, which if you look at who goes to actually submit the ballots, it really is only presidential elections. A lot of times you'll miss the percentages on any other election. And then even of that, it isn't like when we annex a library district where you can get that with a simple majority. The additional hurdle you have is with bonds, it's a 60% voter approval. So you have like two issues there. That 40% turnout of all the registered voters plus the 60% of those who actually do voting for it. So we'll see. I mean, the jury is still out on the actual vote, because there is still about like 8,000 ballots left to count. And I mean, it wasn't like it was completely buried. I'll just say how it's trending, though it's not looking peachy, but it isn't completely out either.
So it hasn't hit the 40%?
That's the other issue. Last time I checked it, it was like around 37%, but they didn't count those other 8,000 ballots. But that's countywide, so you don't really know if that represents college, but you won't know until 5 p.m. today. That's when most of those are supposed to be counted. So it's like a big question mark right now, because we aren't low enough to say we're completely out. We're like right on the razor's edge. So depending what's left, it could go all sorts of places, because right now it's like 48 to 51%, 51% against 48 or so percent for. I mean, if a lot of those ballots left to count are in college place precincts, that could wildly throw it, but you just don't know. They don't break it out that specific.
It's not like a 65 vote swing right now.
Yeah. I mean, it actually is not that big of a swing. It's just if you look at the regression analysis, typically for votes like this, if it follows trends, historically, it's not too great. But also, I will say, from what's left to vote, it is definitely possible it could swing the other way. We'll know that answer the end of today.
Other questions or comments for Mike on the 25 to 2030 capital facility plan? Okay, Hearing none, this is an action item for us. So we do need a motion to approve the Mike, are we making a motion to approve just the parks portion of this, correct?
Yeah, correct. That's what's
Okay.
under the direct purview. Yep.
Okay. So if I could get a motion for that.
I would make that motion to approve the parks portion for presentation.
Okay, it's been moved. Second.
Second?
Yeah, we've got it's been moved and second. And any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Say aye.
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 Any nays? Okay, motion carries. Okay, moving on. Let's see here. Got my agenda up now. Next meeting scheduled for December 20th. A regular meeting. Oh, it's a special. Is that a special meeting?
Yeah, that is a special meeting. So John and the consultants will be here to do the additional drill downs into the park plan. And given if it's December 20th, I may be able to remoting as well. It just depends how I recover from my surgery. So we'll see.
Okay. Then I just need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Great. We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
I'll just say with this one specifically, it's confusing just because at least the tea leaves we saw from the communication and radio, YouTube, and all the events, there was nothing early on to show that there was troubled waters. I'll just couch it that way. So that's why it's confusing. I think some of it too maybe just macroeconomic conditions too that were spectering over it. So maybe I'll change and then it'll be different, but that remains to be seen.
Big number.
Yeah. It's a big number. However, I will say because of now that a lot of the special federal grant dollars were spent down, there is some greater contractor ability now. So what's interesting is the number for our police station versus like West Richland, which was what ours was based off of. Our estimate, they actually had it 4 million less than West Richland because of the macroeconomic conditions.
I think people are willing to support things that are expensive if they know that it means something to the community.
Yeah.
And if there's a miss there.
Yeah.
then, we end up with things not getting supported.
Yeah.
But if it's meaningful and it shows, there's, connection.
Yeah.
People are willing to support things that are expensive.
Yeah.
I think what's duly tough, just being new and coming into this job and being new to like city, and how it works is that we're not really allowed to try to sway the vote, and to me, I'm like, we could just put a picture
Yeah.
of the tree growing out of the police department, but that might be perceived as trying to sway public opinion.
See that right there is the big thing in like other states. You can actually like say stuff. But in the state, particularly regulations around the voter approved bonds, even like in my own private life and stuff, you really can't do any of that. Otherwise, it could be like a PDC violation. So that's what makes it extra confusing because like in other states, in your personal capacity, you could like do that sort of thing, but you're really boxed in where the folks who would know like the most about it, like even Troy, he can't even like he can inform, but you can't really go past that. And that's where it becomes difficult. Yeah. Yep.